Cheesy the Podcast, presented by Just Cheesy Productions.
Hi there, I'm your host Fondue.
I'm Cheesy.
In this week's episode, we're going to learn all about the color of cheese.
Whoa.
We're going to talk about the history of the color of cheese.
We are?
We're talking saffron, marigold,
Whoa.
carrot juice, and annatto.
Whoa.
And we're going to find out who has cheese-colored paint and makeup.
Ooh.
And of course, we're going to tell a very cheesy joke.
I love a joke.
Stay tuned for episode 224, Cheese Colored, on Just Cheesy the Podcast. You know, Cheesy, there's a lot of talk about food coloring in the news lately.
Oh, yeah.
But this is nothing new.
Really?
According to NPR.org, cheese expert Paul Kinstead of the University of Vermont says that back in the 17th century, English cheesemakers thought they could make a little bit more money if they skimmed the cream off the top of the milk
Whoa.
to basically sell it separately or make butter from it.
Whoa.
And you're thinking to yourself, why is that a big deal? Well,
Yeah, why?
that cream that they skimmed off the top has a little bit of an orange color.
Oh.
So when they skimmed it from the top to make butter, the cheese lost a lot of its color.
Oh.
And what it says here is what was left over was basically low-fat cheese made from white milk.
Oh.
So in order to make it look like a higher quality product that included that cream, cheesemakers tried to initially trick people and mask the white color of the cheese.
What?
They began adding coloring.
They did?
Yeah, all the way back in the 17th century, they began coloring cheese.
Holy cow.
They began with things like saffron, marigold, and carrot juice.
Whoa.
A lot of historical texts mention saffron being rare, so
Oh.
it's likely it was very expensive and probably not the most used colorant.
Right.
And if we go back a little bit, cheese actually gets its natural golden color because of beta-carotene,
Whoa.
a pigment cows get from grass.
They do?
So grass-fed cows had a little bit yellower milk,
Okay.
and people began to associate that yellow color with quality.
Of course.
Cheesemakers also started coloring cheeses intentionally because grass is more prevalent in the summer. They colored it so that pale winter cheeses looked like the prized summer batches.
Tricky.
So essentially, this was a bit of a marketing trick.
Yeah.
Rennetandrind.co.uk talks about the British territorial cheeses. It says here they were colored with a variety of agents.
Okay.
They mention carrot juice
Sure.
and saffron,
Yeah.
and they even talk about turmeric and marigold petals.
Whoa.
There was another colorant that began being used back in the 16th century and was imported to the United States in the 18th century.
Whoa.
It's called annatto.
Oh.
And according to the article, it produced a more vibrant color with less impact on texture and flavor.
Wow.
And it's used in a lot of different food coloring today.
It is?
It's been used for centuries to dye textiles, cosmetics, and even Aztec paintings.
Wow.
Annatto is a natural colorant derived from the seeds of the, I'm going to butcher it,
Oh, no.
achiote tree.
Ugh.
And this is native to South America and the Caribbean.
Whoa.
And from the picture they show here, it looks like they come in sort of like a shell
Yeah.
and they're brick red in color.
Yeah.
It says here the color is extracted from the seeds by drying them before soaking them in an alkaline solution.
Whoa.
The solution is then added to the milk at the beginning of the cheese making process,
Okay.
giving the curds their distinctive orange or red color.
Wow.
And there's even some historical documentation about the coloring of cheese.
There is?
According to culturecheesemag.com, they say here French mimolette is so deeply colored that the cut wedges could be mistaken for cantaloupe slices.
Oh,
And the
wow.
Dutch Edam cheese was purportedly created by decree of Louis XIV.
Whoa.
It says here, according to the book Cheese Exploring Taste and Tradition, mimolette was likely dyed as a snub to the Dutch Royal House of Orange.
Whoa.
And today, there's a little bit of rivalry between Vermont and Wisconsin cheese.
Oh, yeah.
When visiting Cabot Creamery, they claim they use no colorants in their white cheddar cheese.
Wow.
And they believe it's superior to the yellow cheese coming from places like Wisconsin.
Whoa.
Cabot Creamery is not a sponsor.
Nope.
But if they were, their ad would go right here. Have you ever wanted to listen to the web?
Yeah.
Well, Newsly makes that possible.
They do?
They're an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android.
Super app.
You can listen to trending articles on the web on topics that you choose and get them read to you in a natural human voice.
What kind of topics?
Sports,
Cheese?
tech, business, science.
Cheese?
I'm sure there's even cheese.
Yay.
They even have an entire section for podcasts.
Are we there?
Of course we are.
Ooh.
It's one of my new favorite podcast apps. They even have digital radio.
Holy cow.
Just go to www.newsly.me to download it free.
Whoa.
Or use the link in the description. If you use the promo code CHEESY,
Cheesy.
that'll get you 1 month free premium subscription.
Yay, Newsly.
Now, back to the podcast. Did you know there's another natural coloring agent?
There
I'm
is?
going to butcher this.
Oh.
Apocarotinol is a
Whoa.
colorant. It's natural and it's derived from plants that give a deep orange tint. And it's
Ooh.
found in things like spinach and citrus fruits. And according to
Wow.
some reports, it's used in cheeses like Velveeta.
Ooh.
And believe it or not, you can actually dye some things on your own.
You can?
According to VermontCreamery.com, you can make a whipped roasted beet and goat cheese dip.
Ooh.
This is amazing. It is purpley pink.
Yeah.
It's going to take 2 to 3 large beets, cut
Okay.
into 1-inch pieces, some olive oil, salt and pepper,
Yeah.
some goat cheese, vinegar, honey. There's a recipe in our show notes.
Yeah.
You roast the beets,
Yeah.
you put them in a food processor when they cool,
Okay.
and they impart their beautiful color.
Yeah.
And you know who else is kind of famous for their beautiful colors?
Ooh, what?
Crayola crayons.
Yeah.
And you know what?
What?
There's an orange crayon, and it's named Macaroni and Cheese.
Holy cow.
Crayola celebrated a 90th anniversary in 1993.
They did?
And when they did it, they paired the Crayola number 64 box with 16 fluorescent crayons.
Ooh.
They decided at that time to create 16 new colors,
Ooh.
and they let the fans name them for the first time in their history.
Whoa.
Macaroni and Cheese was named by Adrian Wattrell, a 6-year-old.
Amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know what else is cheese colored?
What?
Wall paint.
What?
That's right, wall paint.
Really?
Benjamin Moore has a few. They have one that's called sharp cheddar.
Wow.
They have one called nacho cheese
Ooh.
and one called American cheese.
Oh.
And maybe you don't want to paint your wall like cheese. Well, maybe
Why
you
not?
want to paint your face.
Okay.
According to Allure.com, back in 2019, Glamlight had an eyeshadow palette called the Burger Palette. That's
Okay.
right, it had 16 different shades.
Okay.
And it was inspired by delicious burger toppings and sides.
Really?
Yeah, it had things like avocado,
Okay.
bacon, ketchup, onion rings,
Whoa.
mustard, onions,
Cheese?
and of course, cheese. Maybe you don't want to wear cheese color on your eyes, but you do
No.
want to wear it on your body.
You do?
It appears that in 2017, you could have had a color called fried cheese curds. That's
Whoa.
right. DestinationYarn.com had something called fried cheese curd colored yarn. It said the
Wow.
first skein was dyed in a semi-solid colorway, then speckles of similar colors were applied on top. This was to
Ooh.
celebrate the culinary masterpiece in the Midwest, which is perfectly delightful and cheesy.
Yeah.
Of course, they're not the only ones with cheese-colored yarn. There's
They're
one
not?
called knitpicks.com, and they have one called Cheese Poof.
Ooh.
I mean, just a small Google search will bring you to things called chili con queso
Yeah.
and nacho cheese.
Ooh.
You name it. You can pretty much get cheese-colored yarn just about anywhere online.
I'm ready for a joke, Fondue.
Okay, why did cheddar decide to be orange?
I don't know. Why?
Because it wanted to stand out on the board.
Haha, that was lame.
It might have been a little bit lame,
Yeah.
but I thought it was a little bit cheesy. Thanks for listening to Just Cheesy the Podcast, episode 224, Cheese Colored.
Thank you.
If you haven't yet, please subscribe or download our podcast every week. It really helps us out.
And stay cheesy, everybody.